I've just written a few things down about Brenda. All right. Brenda was a good friend and a surrogate grandma to our 3 children. She and Pelle gave us a home, not only in Rathon Road, but again in Grange Avenue, when we discovered woodworm in our new house and had to have all the floors replaced. Brenda found great joy in her grandchildren, Alex and Kirsty, and in other children. She was a stellar babysitter, always eager to organise day trips, and she and Karin took our kids on various holidays, giving us a very welcome break. We had a shared love of gardening, home renovation, art and interior design. But I have to confess I never shared Brenda's passion for cooking and feeding people. Queen of the kitchen, she was always making something. Cakes for people's birthdays, chicken schnitzel for the children, or, as many of you will remember, a huge Swedish smorgasbord on Christmas Eve. Smorgasbord. It's like a big smorgasbord.
Is that not how you say it?
Smorgasbord. Linked to her love of cooking was her delight in the supermarket grocery shop. She was never happier than providing people with a feast or browsing a new cookery book while watching current affairs programmes on the TV. I think I'm right in saying Brenda and Pelle met at Ruskin College. They shared a lifelong interest in social justice and the labour movement. Brenda was a daily Guardian reader and worked in Manchester Housing Department for many years. I recall her many kindnesses. A small example was her lending us her camper van for a camping trip. We were ready for the off, loaded with tent and sleeping bags, when she presented us with a bottle of wine and a huge plate chicken pie. After the stress of pitching the tent, that pie was one of the best, most memorable meals of my life, I tell you. The same camper van took us to Ireland one summer. At home, it served as an extra playroom for the children, and even gave shelter to a homeless man who Brenda let use it. A bit like Alan Bennett and his lady in the valley. Brenda had her foibles too. A certain maverick approach to driving and the rules of the road brought the attention of the traffic police and the DVLA now and again. In more recent years, Brenda's kindnesses were repaid by many of you here who supported and helped her in different ways. Brenda was always in good spirits and looking ahead to her next venture or project. The last time we spoke, she was keen to start planning landscaping for the garden at her house in Normandy. Here's to Brenda. She was much loved and she will be missed.
I'm doing a eulogy for Brenda and Pelle Astrom. And now I met Brenda in the street band, which I was playing in 1985. Which there are pictures around. Keep wondering why. Yeah, that's us all around. We're all over the place. I'm afraid I'm always at the front because I played alto, saxophone, and Brenda played the euphonium, so she was at the back with the bassist. It's not that I'm being too egotistical. It was the miners' strike, 85, and there were a lot of street bands suddenly appeared, older cities, and we had absolutely wonderful time going from one city to the next. So Brenda was on the euphonium, which what her main job was to keep us going, and that was sort of. She was always as steady as a rock. That was Brenda's role. We weren't the best band in the world, but we did our best. And Gerald Kaufman, the MP for Rushoe, he called us that motley band. And he warned other MPs against going to Manchester They appear out of nowhere. I don't know if you know what the next bit is called, the Right Honourable Brenda. Both Brenda and Pelle were socialists and members of the Labour Party. Did you know that her father was a lord, or so what kind of baron?
I think so.
And Brenda was a Right Honourable. Is there anyone you didn't know that? Oh, dear, I'm glad there's somebody who didn't.
She kept it quiet, didn't she?
Very, very quiet. Shock horror I've written here. But no call for angry mobs to pull down statues. Her father was a Labour lord, a worthy reward for being the president of a union. I don't know which one it was. It was probably one of those that got sucked in by Unite or the other big unions. There were a lot of little unions around. Anyway, so she was brought up and lived in a very large house in Guildford. Was it Guildford? I don't know. Let's
Possibly Wimbledon. I mean, they were in Wimbledon at some point.
Okay, yeah. So this was perhaps in Wimbledon or Guildford, and it sported a tennis court where Brenda probably played mixed doubles with trade unionists, and it made me think of a John Betjeman poem, very, very English. Do you know that poem? Miss Jane hunted down Miss Jane. Burnished and furnished by always upside. What glorious doubles we had after tea. Me and something in You Against Me. Anyway, it's about a love affair on the tennis court. I thought that was Brenda. So having got that one over with, her telling me she was this Right Honourable, we became good friends for the next 50 years. Coming to Pelle now, and this was, Pelle came to Pelle. Brenda got a trade union scholarship. We differ here, I'm sure you're right. A trade union scholarship to Sweden to see true socialism in action. The Brits were left scratching their heads. After all, we were the first to have the peasants' revolt and the toll puddle martyrs, and yet we still have outdoor labs. What went wrong? So the Swedish version was obviously superior. Brenda met Pelle and fell in love with all 6'4" of him. Pelle was by trade a woodman. He was born and brought up in the Swedish forests and turned trees into paper. Everyone loved Pelle. It's true, they did. But in France, he was just loved. When they moved to France 25 years ago, Pelle soon became the go-to person for all the Brits living there who did not know the French words for ballcock or deviled edge. Pelle didn't know either, but having got by with Swedish English for so long, he said, "So I'm not going to start learning French at my time of life." And it seemed to work in Monsieur Bricolage, French for B&Q. Pelle was not only the most practical bricklayer, plumber, wood turner, he could do anything except speak French. He loved reading history and politics and believed unequivocally in a just and fair society. Through Brenda and Pelle, I met people who worked with Swedish trade unionists, and this led to my future work with Swedish ABF, the Swedish ABF, which is the Workers' Education Association. So I did lots of trips to Sweden, and many trips to Sweden where I learned to love the country and the people, giving me some idea how our country should be run to the benefit of all its members. Pelle was everything that was Swedish, quiet, generous, philosophical and loyal. We shall miss them both for their own particular gifts they gave to us.
One of my first memories of Pelle was at Ruthen Road, watching him ascend a 30-foot ladder to put the finishing touches to new windows in loft extension, where Kath and I lived for a couple of years, and where Ellie was born. We drank his DIY elderflower wine, his wine cellar, in a surprisingly short time while we were there, which was probably just as well, as the bottles tended to explode if they were left too long. I learnt a lot of practical stuff from Pelle, mostly through observation and example. Verbal explication only when really necessary. Windows, doors, electrics, plumbing, brickwork were just a few of his areas of expertise. Kept busy as he was on a succession of properties in Manchester, including Karen's and ours. His last project in Normandy, I believe, is very nearly finished. When we visited, there were several rabbit hutches dotted about the field, their inhabitants all destined for the pot. Another legacy of his Swedish youth was the outdoors and orienteering. Pelle was a dedicated reader of history and politics and a socialist of the Scandinavian variety. He was generous with his time and skills, thorough and painstaking. He always had a well-appointed workshop in every house that Brenda and Pelle lived in, where he produced, amongst other things, wooden models, wood-turned bowls, and a doll's house for Kirsty. Not all Pelle's projects went smoothly, but could still be impressive, such as the magnetic finger, which allowed him to move metallic objects around a table from a distance. We last saw him a couple of years ago when he visited from Normandy at Christmas time. He didn't forget us to bring us a big bag of walnuts, harvested from his tree and meticulously shelled. And as ever, he was delighted to catch up with everybody's news. Accident and deteriorating health kept him in Normandy since then, a few close friends giving support. Pelle, I'm very glad to have known you, and I'm grateful to have had your support for so long. Pelle Astrom, a generous and loving man.
Here, here.
So I think you need to explain the magnetic finger.
Well, yes, Pelle, I don't think he often wore gloves, and he often picked up bits of scarf and so on from in the workshop. And one time he managed to get into his finger a piece of magnetic material, a slice of magnet to do with chiseling or whatever, I don't know. But it allowed him, and he demonstrated this in quite a few opportunities, to move pins and things around the table without touching them. It was very impressive.